former Georgia Congressman Jack Kingston, former Ohio Congressman Bob McEwen. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Jack, you heard John Fetterman's comments there. What do you make of the Democrats' hypocrisy on a potential shutdown? He seems to be the only one who's making sense.
Well, it's interesting that he has emerged as such a maverick for both sides. You'll remember a month ago, he went down to Mar-a-Lago. He was criticized for that. And he said, look, I'm looking for wins for Pennsylvania. I'm looking for wins for the United States of America. And I will work with anybody who can help us achieve that. I served on the Appropriations Committee for 20 years. I did not like CRs either. It's always better to pass the regular appropriations, but when you can't do it, you've got to keep the government running. You've got to keep things working. You've got to keep the soldiers' pay on the way. So I think that the fact that he is going to be independent on it is probably going to encourage other Democrats. With him, now we need 7 more just to get to cloture. And then when the vote comes to the floor, they can vote to shut down the government. But all we're talking about right now is the procedural vote that will allow the CR to get to the floor for the debate.
Yeah, Bob, I mean, come on now. Democrats have been running around Washington, D.C. for the past 5-6 weeks saying, oh, these poor government workers that Doge is laying off, they're losing their jobs. And now they're going to vote to shut down the government and put people out of their jobs. I mean, where does the hypocrisy end?
It seems to be a bottomless pit. You're exactly right, Mark. A continuing resolution, a CR, what is that? That means you don't have a new budget. You don't have a new program. You continue spending at whatever the budget was before. Who was in charge of the last budget? It was Senator Schumer, who was majority leader. And so all they're doing now is continuing resolution to continue to spend at that level. A couple little minor changes, as Jack mentioned. There was a pay raise for some soldiers and that sort of thing. But basically, it's his budget. And now he says, oh, I want to shut down the government, which is what? Political. You're exactly right, Mark.
Yeah, it is political. There's one guy, right? John Fetterman. Jack, is there any chance that he talks some sense into at least 8, right? That's how many they need. At least 8 more Democrats maybe come around before midnight on Friday?
Oh, well, I think they will. I think that Senator Kelly and Senator Kaine are already talking in that direction. And my home of Georgia, I think Senator Ossoff is going to be in a politically very tough race next go-round. I think he's going to vote to keep the government open. I think if he does that, Senator Warnock, his Georgia colleague, will probably join him. And that's what happens is one by one, people start saying, I got to get to a yes. And it might be for my own politics. And by the way, speaking of their own politics, I think a lot of Chuck Schumer's motivation right now is he's afraid of being primaried by AOC or maybe Congressman Jeffries, because it does appear that the New York Democrat base is getting more and more hard left. And I think he's got to keep one eye on his own politics.
Oh, good point.
Interesting. So, Bob, this is the part that I ultimately don't get here. I mean, obviously, they've got to get this thing through. I remember Republicans have never won a government shutdown. We've never won one of these fights. But it's setting up pretty good right now that I think it falls on Schumer and the Democrats if they shut it down tomorrow night.
Mark, you know, the truth of the matter is, and I say this boldly, that is Newsmax has as much to do with that as anybody in Washington. The fact is, just as you said, that when they first started this game under Reagan, and everybody blamed the President Reagan for being bullheaded and all of that. And so Newt, when the Republicans took control for only the second time in 70 years, and they began to work with Clinton, and they said, we're not going to spend at your level, we're going to balance the budget, and they shut down the government. Everybody blamed the Congress. So whichever the Republican is, that's the one that was always blamed, whether it was the Congress or it was the president. And because of the changes taking place in media, and Chuck Todd and Andre Mitchell and all these folks are now on the street corner, and because there is genuine news, such as we're enjoying here this morning, and people can see it, I think that perhaps, for the first time, it's a possibility that the people in America will say, I see what you're doing, Chuck Schumer. I see what the Democrats that wouldn't even stand for the First Lady, that wouldn't even escort the President of the United States into the chamber, who sat there and made faces and made obscene gestures. I see what those people are up to. And if so, it will be a great step forward for our country. And I appreciate Jack. Jack's an optimist. God love him. He thinks we're going to get 7 Democrats. I pray he's right. I pray he's right.
Hey, when Charlotte talks, people listen, right?
Bob, Jack, thank you guys so much.
Thanks a lot. Great to be with you, Bob.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.